Yes, we are live. Welcome back, my dear friends. This is another episode of Zero Point Healing Show, and I'm looking at the number here. It is 122 episode number. Wow. So I had been doing these interviews for almost a year now since Zero Points Healing got started. It was a web directory that I created for holistic healing practitioners. And today the web directory has kind of grown into so many different kind of modalities, so many different kind of healing practices, healing practitioners and therapists and facilitators, healers, has been a wonderful journey for me as the kind of founder of this directory. And I've been also seeing how it has been changing clients' lives as well. So there was one person who kind of messaged me just a few days back. It was like, wow, the directory is amazing because it's any client. For me, I think that's where the idea came up. So I was into different modalities, practicing different things. And I was like, I was doing so many healing sessions for myself. And I wondered how beautiful it would have been if there is one place where all practitioners, where all holistic healing, stuff exists. So it's easy for me to look through the different modalities, different tools, and different practitioners and search for somebody and then kind of book a session with them. So it has been that kind of curiosity that led me to creating this kind of a platform. And if you are a holistic healing practitioner yourself, I welcome you to zeropointhealing.com. You can register for free. And if you're interested in one such interview with me, you can contact me for that as well. With that, we are moving to our beautiful guest today. So thank you, Larry, for coming to my show. It's such an honor for me to have you. Before we begin, before I ask him any question, I just want to let you all know. So we were just talking about his 35 years of experience. So he has been a hypnotherapist for about 35 years. I feel this is the first time maybe I'm meeting someone who has that kind of track record. So I'm like, wow, how beautiful can this interview be? So let's get started from there, Larry. How has been your journey? And can you also tell us maybe prior to this journey into hypnotherapy, what kind of led you? What made you see, oh, there's something called hypnotherapy, and what made you stick with it for 35 years?
Well, first of all, Vishnupriya, thank you for inviting me to your show. And one little correction, I'm not a beautiful guest after 35 years. Anything but beautiful.
From my eyes, you look like beautiful. So I'm like, I'm a beautiful guest today.
Yeah, well, it's very nice of you. My background, well, I live in Ireland, and my first experience of hypnosis was about 40 years ago or thereabouts. I was a chain smoker, smoking about 40 cigarettes a day, and I couldn't stop. And well, I tried a few times, I failed. But then I thought, I wonder would hypnosis help? And I heard about this doctor who did hypnosis on the side. So I thought I'd try that, So I went to see this guy, and he did the business with me. And I never smoked since, no withdrawal symptoms, and I'm still alive. So that was my first experience on the receiving end for hypnosis. So I knew it worked, but then I forgot about it. But then some years later, I was working as a management trainer, running training courses for business people. Then I myself was attending a course over in London once, and this American hypnotist was brought into the group for one weekend, and he had us lying around on the floor for most of the time, hypnotizing us. And at the end of that weekend, I couldn't remember very much, but I felt fantastic. And I thought, I wonder if I can learn this trickery or whatever it is and build it into my business training courses, to get at the bits that the business textbooks can't reach, like creativity or motivation, that kind of thing, or stress management. And that's what got me hooked. And but then, of course, I had to learn it. So I went on a few short courses, but mainly I had to learn through practice. And for a few years, nobody was safe. Neighbors, friends, always looking for people to practice on, you see. And I get better and better at it. And then I thought, I wonder, can I try this with a group of business people, real business people who are paying money? And I remember the first course that I ran, I was so nervous. And I had all these managers lying around on the floor, you see. And, well, they had cushions for their heads and so on. And I started off with my talk, you see, and they all went into trance. It worked. So after that, I became a bit more confident. But then, as I went on as a manager and trainer, I began to notice that quite a few of my business clients were starting to get better from all sorts of different illnesses. And I hadn't expected that. Like, I never forget one time, I was running a business training course, and we had a break, a coffee break. And I went outside into the corridor outside the lecture room, and I saw this man, one of my participants, walking up and down. I thought, oh yeah, I should explain. During the session, I had hypnotized this group, you see, and I asked each of them to pick an illness that they wanted to fix. Okay, but don't tell me what the illness is. And I would just refer to that illness during the trance session. So we did the session. And then, as I say, afterwards, I was walking down the corridor and I saw this other guy walking up and down. And I said, what's up with you? And he said, the pain's gone. I said, what pain? Well, he said, I have this hip problem. I'm down for a hip operation to get a hip replacement surgery done, but the pain's gone. I've been in pain for months, he said. I said, oh, okay. I said, I thought maybe it was just some funny thing that went on in his head, you know. But then later on that day, the pain was still gone. So I said, listen, I said, maybe something is happening physically inside you, but could you go to your doctor and the specialist and check this out? I said, but he said, I've booked the operation. He said, I'm down for the operation. I said, well, would you mind taking a scan or an X-ray beforehand, just in case? He said, I will. Anyway, I never heard from him again. He told me he'd contact me. He never did. So I phoned him up 6 months later, and I said, "Oh, how's it going?" Yeah, I said, "What about the operation?" Oh, he said, "I didn't do the operation. I cancelled it." What? Well, he said the pain was gone. He said, and I can do my gardening now. I can tie my shoelaces. I can walk. He said, so I just cancelled the operation. I said, listen, either you still have a damaged hip and you're in excruciating agony, but you don't know it, or something physically has started to change. Could you go to that specialist again and definitely get that X-ray done? Oh, I will. Anyway, he didn't. I kept chasing him for a couple of years. He never got to take the X-ray done. He never did the surgery. And to this day, I don't know what the hell happened there. I think he was afraid to get the X-ray in case he discovered he still had to have the operation. But he's fine since. So things like that started to happen. And that got me more and more interested in the whole area of hypnosis. And eventually the word began to spread. And so I suppose, yeah, after a number of years, I was getting more medical inquiries than business coaching inquiries. So I gradually moved over into that area. That's where I've been ever since, just doing hypnosis.
Wow.
So my motivation was totally commercial, originally anyway.
Yeah, I love those stories, and I feel it is that kind of motivates us, gives us the confirmation that it worked for me, but when I do it for others, it's working for others too. So maybe I can do this thing. So now let's get into the hypnotherapy first. And can you tell us, let's say, how long a particular session might be? Let's say anybody watching this particular video would love to book a session with you. Tell us, how would that experience be for that person? How long is it? Can it be done online? And also talk to us about this trance thing. And I feel that is one of the major concerns that a lot of people have about hypnotherapy. You know, what if I lose control? What if, something else happens? So tell us how that kind of feels for a person.
Well, the way I've developed my particular approach to hypnosis is I just do one session with my client, but it's a very long session. So, for example, typically it might take anything between 3 and 6 hours altogether. And the first few hours, I'm just talking to the client, asking questions. And of course, the client asks me lots of questions as well. And arising from that, I try to put together a strategy to use in the actual trance session later on. And then we go through this proposed strategy together with the client. And as long as he or she is happy with it, then we just do it in the actual hypnosis thing. So really, I've done a sales job on the trance content before we do the trance, if you like. So it's tailor-made to the client's requirements, basically. And then we just do the trance, which could take anything up to 2 hours altogether. So it's a very long session. Now, what's happened with I've gone online now because, well, when this COVID pandemic hit, I mean, having a hypnotherapy session is not a good idea. I mean, to be 6 hours in a room with an old guy like me, not a good idea. So I thought, I wonder what I can do about this. And then I thought, hang on a minute. Each of my sessions is in 2 sessions. One is talking to the client and the next is the trance. So what I've done now is the talking bit to the client, the consultation, if you like, that can be done online, just like you and I talking now, and it works perfectly. And then the actual trance, there's no way I would do the trance live, like, you know. So with the trance thing, I record it the next day in an MP3 format. And then I just send the email to the client with the complete script, if you like, and he just plays them in his own time. So, but actually it works better because I have more time to think about the actual strategy to use in the trance session and to polish it up and do all those things. So the client gets a better product and I get more satisfaction by doing it online. But a lot of people, they think, oh, you know, first of all, doing hypnosis is crazy, but doing it online is even crazier. It works very well, that's all I can say, you know.
Wow, that's amazing. And how has been, if you can share maybe some client experience and maybe results, was there any difference in the results that you have seen between doing the session physically versus online, or how has been?
Not really. It's about, roughly it's about 7 out of 10 of my clients get totally better. It doesn't work for everybody, unfortunately, you know. But the results online are so far much the same. But I hope they'll be a bit better. But I haven't been doing it for long enough, really, to do an overview like that. But it seems to be about the same from what people are telling me, you know. And the results as well, typically, people usually notice the change. Well, they can notice the change sometimes immediately after the trance, but generally it takes a bit of time because we're triggering nature's cure. But usually within 4 weeks or so, people have noticed a change, or else their friends have noticed a change. Somebody has noticed it, things start happening. And it works for either mental problems or physical problems, which is the thing that really, really amazed me. How can it work for physical things? I still don't know. So
Magic and miracle that exists in the world and no answers to those, right?
yeah.
So now let's talk about the depression, as that has been one of the topics here that we had to discuss anyways. So tell us about depression, and tell us maybe how hypnotherapy actually helps a person with depression and what kind of results and experiences, you know, your clients
Yeah.
have been having with it.
Yeah, well, depression, I think it has to be the worst illness of all. And most of my clients either suffer from depression or it's depression related, whatever they have. And it's the worst illness because, first of all, the medical fraternity have no cure for it. Or, okay, they have antidepressants, but they just mask the symptoms. They have no cure. And depression is the only illness I've ever come across where people want to kill themselves as a solution. I mean, people with terminal cancer don't want to kill themselves, but people with depression very often do. So to me, it has to be the worst illness of all. Now, the other thing too about depression is that nobody knows what it's like, except the person who has it. And thank God I've never had it myself personally. And when people try to describe their depression, very often they use metaphors. They say things like, well, it's like living in a black hole. Okay, but I've never been in that black hole. I don't really know what it's like. They either use metaphors or they describe it as experiencing an extreme form of mental, what would you call it? Negative emotions, really, at an extreme level. Like for some depressives, they're totally terrified. Anger is the one for other people, really angry. They're the ones who sometimes end up in prison. They're so angry. Other people, it's self-hatred. They hate themselves. And other people, it's sadness. They're just absolutely sad for no apparent reason. Yeah. Anyway, the other thing too is that the way I do it, I think you were asking about that. Yeah. First of all, I've discovered that most people with depression that I meet anyway, it seems to be more genetic than learned. In other words, that you can be born with a genetic tendency. And now, okay, it can be a combination sometimes, because people who have a genetic tendency towards depression, they're very sensitive people usually, and they're more sensitive. So when the bad things happen, they hurt them more. So that can make things actually worse. But generally, depression is caused by genetics mainly for most people, not everybody, but most people that I meet. And what I found to my surprise is that after one session of hypnotherapy, most of them can get completely better, which baffles me. Like, how can this be if it's genetic? And the truth is, I don't know. I'm guessing it's down to the sheer versatility of this supercomputer we have on board here, that it can work out all sorts of alternative information processes. But somehow the brain heals itself. And that's the way I mean, nobody understands the mind, of course. And none of the experts, psychologists, psychiatrists, neurologists, none of the ologists actually have the blueprint. They've got interesting theories, but nobody knows. And I don't know either. But to help me, I imagine the unconscious mind as if it's like a vast, evolving supercomputer. That's just to help me. And I imagine this unconscious computer as if it's like packed with programs. Now, but it also seems to me that as if there's like a master program which permeates all the other programs. And according to this master program, your unconscious mind wants to do for you what's best for you, as best it knows. So the whole slant is positive. And of course, well, what does the unconscious know? It knows your total life history to date since birth, or maybe even from earlier than that. But based on that information, it wants the best deal possible. But sometimes there might be a rogue program in there somewhere, like a depressive program, or a fibromyalgia program, or an autoimmune disease program, which doesn't seem to be doing anything positive. So what I set up in the trance is a kind of a negotiation process between all these different parts of the unconscious. For example, let's imagine somebody is suffering from extreme anger. And so in the trance, we talk to the angry part of the unconscious mind and congratulate you for doing such a fantastic job. I always have to be very polite, you see, and thank you for always looking out for new opportunities to make the person angry. And so lots of schmoozy talk like that. And then I would thank the angry part for doing such a great job. And then I would turn to another part of the unconscious, maybe we'd call it the creative healing part, and the part that knows everything. And we'd ask that part to communicate everything it knows about the person to the angry part and to send a yes signal. And so now the angry part knows all this other stuff it never knew before, like how to be happy and all the rest of it. And then I asked the angry part, is it willing to hand over the job of taking care of the client from now on to the other part? So that's the beginning of the negotiation. So we try to get the negative part to switch off. And generally, because of the overall thing in the unconscious where everything has to be good for you, generally it agrees. And once that happens, then the coast is clear and we can talk to the creative, happy part and ask it to make all these changes occur. But how it does it, I don't know. And of course, people are in a trance while this is all going on. And I'm often curious what's going on in there, but very often they don't even remember what happened, much to my disappointment, you know. But sometimes they do. It's quite interesting, the experiences that some people have while they're in trance, yeah.
Wow, and that's amazing the way you kind of said it. And still, so I have seen with regards to hypnotherapy, how we do, live hypnotherapy, and then the person might be talking. So since you are now recording the trance and giving it to them, so there isn't a kind of feedback from them during the trance portion. But
Right, yeah. Yeah, good question. Well, even when I used to do face-to-face hypnosis, I never asked the client to speak during the trance. Now, it is possible to speak during a trance, but I prefer that they didn't speak for a couple of reasons. First of all, sometimes the client is in a very deep trance, and very often they don't feel like talking. They're having a really good time, and this guy wants to have a conversation. And it's like, if somebody interrupts a really pleasant dream. So it's a very negative thing for them if they're in a deep trance. And then if they're in a medium trance, they're kind of aware, this guy wants me to say yes. Okay, I'll say yes, yes, But then afterwards, he's not too sure. Was he faking it? Was that really his unconscious saying yes? Or even worse, was he saying yes just to keep me happy? Because, there's a tendency in a lot of these therapies for the subject to want to please the therapist, if you like. So to avoid all that lack of clarity, they don't speak at all. What happens instead is, during the trance, I invite their unconscious, the parts that we're talking to select their own way of sending a spontaneous yes signal during the trance. And generally that takes the form of either a spontaneous muscle contraction, something might happen, or they get a physical sensation, maybe like a stomach sensation, or a feeling running up and down their spine, or a feeling switches on the side of their head, or maybe they get a visual thing where they see a bright light or an image or a color, or they hear a sound, but something happens by itself, and that's the yes signal. Okay, if they get a no signal, which can happen, okay, very rare, they snap out of the trance. Okay, but that's only happened maybe about 4 or 5 times in my experience out of thousands of people. And usually no was the right answer, actually, as it turned out. But yeah, so that's the yes. So when I'm doing the thing with the MP3 recording, they don't speak, okay? They get the same yes signals, but I don't see any manifestation of it. I just assume they're getting it, and they do, So no problem on that score, so far anyway.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Now, can you maybe give us what are the list of maybe the kind of issues, problems that a particular client can come to you for hypnotherapy?
All sorts of things. They occasionally I get a lady coming to me who wants to have a baby, and it's very successful. But it's not naughty, it's very successful. But it's, the way, for example, you often hear this story about a couple who want to have a baby and they keep trying, no success. And then they say, okay, we'll adopt a child. As soon as they adopt a child, the baby comes along, So there is something psychological there as well. But yeah, it's very good for infertility. Any autoimmune disease, because most of them are triggered by stress. What other kind of things? Yeah, things like fibromyalgia, for example, which is a mystery illness where people have these pains all over their body, and there's no apparent reason, but it's triggered by stress. So very often there are stress-related things, or insomnia, for example, people can't sleep at night. So a whole variety of things, really. But very often there's a depressive streak in the mixture, I find, with not everybody, but with most people. But then some people come to me just to lose weight. Okay, so that's a fairly straightforward thing. They just want to lose weight, but they're not ill as such, And the experiences that people have in their trance, it's really strange. I mean, I remember one lady there recently, and she was in a trance, and she was like this when I was doing a face-to-face session. And I could see a big smile on her face, because one of the things I do in hypnotherapy is regression, where I ask their unconscious to take them back to the happiest moment they ever experienced. And usually it's in early childhood. Not everybody though. But anyway, this lady, I was doing this bit with her, and I could see a big smile on her face. And I wonder where she is, you know. But of course, she wasn't speaking. But after the trance, I asked her, did she remember anything interesting? And she said, oh yes, she said, I was walking along with my husband, and we were just so in love. I was so happy. And she was going on like this. She said, I thought, oh yeah, okay. And then she said, but not my present husband, but he was my husband. I said, what did he look like? Well, he was very good looking, she said. But I said, what was he wearing? Well, he was all dressed in black, and he had a black hat, and he had a white collar. And what about you? What were you wearing? Well, I had a long black dress and a white bonnet. I said, oh, any idea where you were, you see? And she said, no, it was very flat countryside. But we were just so in love. We were so in love. And she was going on and on and on. And then I asked her, was there anything unusual you noticed? Oh, yes, she said, my husband's hat. I said, what about his hat? Well, he had this big black hat with a wide rim, and there was a pointed bit sticking out the front. Fair enough. Anyway, we finished up, and she went home, and so I went on to Google, you know, looking up hats and flat countryside like Holland, Netherlands, maybe, you know. I could find nothing on Google. But then about a year later, this lady came to see me, a Dutch lady, to stop smoking. And I said, oh, you're from Holland. I said, do you know anything about a funny hat that people might have worn in your part of the world in the old days? With a you know, black hat and a pointy bit on the front. Oh, she said, you mean the doctor's hat? The doctor's hat? Yes, she said, in the late medieval period, kind of early Renaissance period, the doctors in Flanders and Holland, they wore these hats, and there was a pointy bit out of the front, and they would hang herbs from the front of it to protect the doctor against the plague. Ooh. So I thought, oh, that's very interesting. So I phoned up this lady who'd seen me before. I said, I've got news for you. Now, she'd never been to Holland in her life, you know, and she got better. So who knows? Was it a fantasy? Was it a past life? You just don't know. But that's where she found her happy experience anyway, wherever it was. Okay. So sometimes people have funny experiences like that, but very often they don't remember where they were or what happened. And that's all decided, of course, by the unconscious mind, which regulates the whole thing, you know. But generally they have a good time, they enjoy themselves, so, and most of them get better.
Wow, this was so amazing, and how, you know, these images. So I have done multiple different kind of, you know, hypnotherapy styles as well, and from my experiments as well, they just go into, maybe we can call it past lives or whatever those experiences were. But when they come out of it, it's not just they are like looking at it as a movie, but it feels like they have those emotions as well. So when they come out of it, I feel it's those emotions that gives them the confirmation that, oh, it feels like I truly experienced that. It's not just like looking at it from the outside. So at times I have had clients who actually, you know, physically they have movements and things. It feels like they just go through that experience, which gives them the confirmation that something has happened within them.
Yeah, the software of happiness is always in there somewhere if you can find it.
Beautiful. So thank you, Larry. And if the clients needs to kind of book session with you, they just need to contact you, email you through the email that you have given in the profile, maybe.
Or on my website, they can find me easily. Yeah.
Sure. All right, my dear viewers. So if you would like to book a session with Larry, and his hypnotherapy is something unique, created by him, and in his profile, if you see, he has put, so there is this, you know, in the profile we have something called certifications, and he has, you know, oh, it's self-taught. And when I looked at it, I was like, wow, here comes the the self-taught version of things has been always very unique, and I've been, this person who really wants to see, each person has their own creativity, their own unique gifts that they come with, and Larry is one such person, and those were my, uh, unique
Well, thank
stuff
you very
with
much for having me, Vishnupriya.
Sure. Thank you, Larry. And my dear viewers, if you would like, we also have a 10% off discount for you. So you can click on the link below and you can book a session with him. And when you contact him, just let him know that you found him from 0 Point Healing, and he'll give you that 10% off discount just for being with us and watching this show with us. So
Okay.
thank you, Larry, for your beautiful
Bye-bye,
session.
everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. So, my dear viewers, I'm going to see you next time. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can contribute to us by sharing this video, especially if you have any family members, friends, relatives, people whom you know who are going through different kind of, smoking or addictions or insomnia or any major such illnesses or problems that they are facing that might have come up in the session. Maybe you can share this video with them and it could be a contribution for them. So thank you so much for all your support. I'm going to see you next time. Thank you, Larry. Bye-bye.